Women's water polo picked up their second win in the 3-year history of the program. Hello, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Bacora. We are going to continue to talk about men's basketball until we are blue and gold in the face. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine. I love that.
Welcome to SportsLine. Steven Sylvester will join the show with his first edition of Sports Chat in the spring semester as he dives deep into the recent conference success for the men's basketball team.
And later, Tyler Small will be joining us for Explorer Report to talk about, yep, you guessed it, basketball.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3. There's no men's basketball in the top 3 this week, Dana.
Oh, I don't like that. Number 1, the men's track team brought home 2 new school records this past weekend at the Fast Track National Invite. Junior Darian Austin competed in the triple jump where he recorded a record-breaking measurement of 15.15 meters. The following day at the Boston University David Henry Valentine Invitational, junior Anthony Hawthorne began the 800-meter by breaking his own record in the first heat. However, shortly after, senior Nathan Gillis broke the record again during his heat, setting a new school record time of 1 minute and 49 seconds.
Number 2, it may be the off-season for the men's soccer team, but that didn't stop 2 explorers from making headlines. Sophomore Soji Olatoye was recently named to the Soccer 6 All-Star team. The striker led the team in goals this season with 6 and had 2 game winners. Meanwhile, freshman defender Fridtjof Anberg made the all-rookie team. Anberg made 15 starts on defense and totaled 3 points in his freshman year, tallying 1 goal and 1 assist.
Number 3. During the month of February, the LaSalle women's basketball team is competing in the 2019 Play for K Free Throw Challenge, benefiting the K Yao Cancer Fund. LaSalle joins universities from across the country who compete to see who can raise the most money for those battling cancer. You can also help by making a pledge per free throw made by contributing a one-time donation. The Explorers will host its annual Play for K game on Sunday, February 17th as they take on Philly rival St. Joe's. Tyler Small will have more on this game in this week's Explorer Report.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the biggest story we've got. I don't want to talk about that too much now. We'll talk about it later on. But it's really cool to see. I mean, our men's team had their cancer night last night, and now the women's team has theirs coming up this weekend. So it's a really cool thing to see the teams be so involved with things outside of basketball.
Definitely, and it's a great way to get an already exciting game, like the fans engaged into it and, you know, supporting, and that'll be fun. Also about track.
Right.
They're killing it.
Yeah.
Kind of like low-key. It seems like they're always kind of setting new school records.
Right.
I know Nathan Gillis, David Austin, they did great this weekend. I know we're going to talk about women's track, who also, the Mancini sisters, they're all doing great. So we will talk about that a little bit later in recaps.
And Darian from the track team, we had on a couple weeks ago, I think now, and he's been absolutely fantastic for us. He transferred in from Penn State and has been phenomenal for us on the track side.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff.
Well, that's all we've got for this week's headlines. Let's see how our teams did this week. The men's basketball team traveled to Washington, D.C. to face a tough George Mason team on February 10th. The Explorers were riding a huge hot streak as they had won 4 straight conference games going into the matchup. George Mason proved to be too much for LaSalle to handle as they would fall 84-76. Javon Green tore the Explorers apart, scoring 21 points on 6 of 11 shooting from the field. Transfer Jared Reuter also found success against LaSalle as he shot 5 of 9 for his 16 points. Pookie Powell led the way for the Explorers with 18 points. Saul Peary was the man to watch, however, as he poured in 17 points while shooting 60% and leading the team with 5 rebounds. LaSalle looked to regain their momentum as they came back home to Tom Gola Arena to take on the Duquesne Dukes. Isaiah Clark has your coverage.
Wednesday, February 13th, men's basketball took on A-10 rival Duquesne in its breast cancer awareness game. David Beatty got the scoring started for the Explorers and was a big part of LaSalle's first half success, ending with 11. Another major part was the play of Pookie Powell, who also ended the half with 11. But despite their performances, the Dukes were able to keep it competitive. It was a balanced attack for Duquesne. but center Michael Hughes took the lead with 9 points on 4 of 5 shooting. About halfway through the period, the Blue and Gold had a 1-point lead that they tried to expand on, but the Dukes were successful in keeping the game close, only allowing the biggest score gap to be 4. It was a battle to the half as both Pookie Powell and Duke's guard Sincere Carey hit free throws to make the halftime score tied at 30. The two teams went pound for pound to start the second half, but the Explorers started to pull away with the help of Shaggy D's, who had 14 points in the second half after going scoreless in the first. LaSalle got their biggest lead up to 11 before Duquesne would get a hot second half of their own from guard Eric Williams Jr., who also scored 14 points after a cold first half. With 3:23 left in the game, the Dukes were able to come back and take a 1-point lead. LaSalle stopped them from pulling away as time winded down, and with 5 seconds left in the game, Powell drove and scored a layup to put the Explorers back on top, making the score 73-72, which would end up being the final score. Pookie Powell ended with a game-high 25 points as Ed Croswell pulled down 16 boards. The win brings LaSalle's record to 8-15 overall and 6-5 in conference. For SportsLine, I'm Isaiah Clark.
Thank you, Isaiah. We will now send it down to Steven Silvestro on how the Explorers team has bounced back after a rough start to the season.
Hello, welcome back to another edition of Sports Chat. I have two fantastic guests. Returning, we have David P. Roberts, and then we have his SportsLine debut, Amadou Salle, over there. All right, we're talking men's basketball team right now. They had a rough start. They started 0-10. Bad start to the Ash Howard career, the era, whatever you want to call it. But they've turned it around since, winning record since the December 21st. And a big part of that in his last 5 games is David Beatty. He is the transfer sophomore. He's averaging 11.4 points per game in the last 5 games. And his shooting has been out of this world right now. He didn't have a big impact in the beginning of the year. What do you think helped that transition?
I don't know. I guess just confidence, you know. I mean, you see guys out there who aren't really comfortable in the situation they're in, including with transfers. Like when they're new, they don't really know how to get themselves out there and show that they can actually play because they're in a new system. So I feel like he just got used to the system and got more confident with his shot and just shot the lights out, you know.
I definitely think it's a mental thing. Like if you were to talk to him before December 21st, he was kind of shy, a little bit timid. Now he's a lot more relaxed, especially in his classes. From what I've seen, he's a little bit more outspoken. He's ready to go in class, and so I can only imagine that also transferred to the court. And now he's ready to produce and perform like we're accustomed to now.
It's good. LaSalle definitely welcomed him in. Now he's comfortable. Now he'll shoot well. But another person has made an impact early on in his career is Ed Croswell. He is the freshman center. He's been playing outstanding the last few games. He is averaging over 10 rebounds a game in the last 5. Just staying under that 10 points per game. Still hasn't gotten his first double-double, despite 2 games in his last 5 with 16 rebounds.
Well, LaSalle's finally feeding the big man, and it's about time that we see somebody really strong in the paint, occupying that space and asserting his dominance, as one should when you're, how tall is he? Like 6'9"?
Yeah,
6'9". Like, if I was 6'9", everywhere I go, I would stomp. There would be no place I wouldn't go where you would not hear my footsteps. And right now, he's finally transferring that energy to the court. Let's just hope that he keeps that up.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really had a big guy since Tony left. I mean, it's been a year, but I mean, we need someone like Ed and Tony to actually make those type of plays. I'm glad that Ed can do it because, you know, we don't have a senior that can do it, you know, and he's young, so he can only go forward from here, and you know that's what really makes this exciting about him.
Yeah, you mentioned we had a struggle early on in the season. We had Miles, the sophomore, Miles Brookins. We had another freshman, Jared Kimbrough, and Ed were all competing for the same spot. What do you think? When did you think Ed won this starting spot that he deserves?
I mean, it's not a matter of winning. I think Miles and Ed, they do 2 different things. Miles, he's a lot faster than Ed, in my opinion. Miles can spread the floor really well, and if you leave him open, he can definitely hit that jumper. Ed, he needs to be in the paint. He needs to stay out there, and he's great for the screen. So when you're setting picks, Miles isn't really too good at that. He's not strong enough for that yet. But as soon as Miles puts on some more weight, I think it'll be a good battle between those 2. I would even consider, as a coach myself, having them both in at the same time if Miles can get the strength that he needs.
Yeah,
what do you think about Jared, though?
I think Jared would be great coming off the bench. I mean, I know it's like one of those things where you see that he can be dominant, but he's really just not there yet. And I think Ed and Miles need to get those times in so he can come off the bench and just go against other bench players and like actually dominate against them and actually get used to like just getting in the paint, getting like what he needs to do, getting more boards because you can see him struggling out there just a little bit, and you can see that he actually wants to go out there and get 10 boards like Ed does, but he's just not there yet. So I think if you give him some time, he'll be there.
I will say, but with both Ed and Miles, when they want it, they really want it. So it's just a matter of getting Miles to that mentality of like really getting in there and feasting as they should, and making sure that Ed has enough stamina to maintain that energy throughout the game.
The biggest impact you can see is between the first 10 games and these last couple have been Salle Fury. Salle did not play the first 10 games of the season, but since then he's coming back 11.5 points per game, shooting over 40% from the field, over even better from three-point land. His impact is definitely very obvious, and it's also on the defensive side. So Salle has definitely made a huge impact, but how do you think he continue to make the same impact? Now that teams are getting ready, they have some more tape on him this season.
Saul, he just better ball decisions. He just needs to make smarter passes, quicker passes, and he has to. Now that he's kind of gotten himself on board, he has to do a better job of involving his teammates, making sure they're on board, and he's not taking foolish shots.
Yeah, I mean, going off of that, I mean, you can see that he wants to ball out. He's going to take some shots that you're going to think are a little iffy, but I mean, you can see by the stats that they're going to go in. Like, so you can trust his shot, and you can trust that he's going to be the guy to make that shot. So I really think that, and like for the rest of the season, because we're just facing 8-10 teams, I feel like they're going to know that he's going to be the guy that's going to, make the 3-point regardless of where he's at. But I also feel like, like Dude said, he's got to make better passes if he realizes, like, if he's not really hitting that night, then he has to kick it out to someone else that's going to make that shot.
Right, and as a spark plug of this offense, which, is evident by his return, if we can get him going early on, then it wouldn't be too far to assume that we can get the others going on as well, because on his own, he brings a lot of energy to the court, and we just need the others to have that same kind of energy so that we can win some games.
Yeah, and talking about win some games, making a last-second shot, Pookie Powell against Duquesne, he scored a layup with 5 seconds left. A lot of pressure. We didn't have a timeout. We got the ball 15 seconds. Didn't have a timeout. Saul kicks it to Pookie, who makes that layup. Pookie has been leading this team in points per game with 16.3 a game. Pookie is our graduate student here. We got him back for another season. The NCAA approved it. How has his impact really been showing on this team?
I mean, I feel like he has to. I mean, it's his last year. He has a lot to prove, and I feel like he has to ball out. I mean, he has no other option. I feel like that's why he's leading his team, because he really is the one that has to go out there and make all these shots, make these points to show that, like, NBA scouts, at least like G League scouts, like that he can actually play for the rest of his career.
And yeah, for someone his height, 6'1", maybe 6'2" on a good day, for him to be able to do what he's doing is, absolutely phenomenal, given that, the average NBA player is 6'3" and above. So for him to come out, average 16 a game, lead this team in scoring, is nothing short of amazing.
All right, we also got Isaiah Shaggy Diaz. Since Saul comes back, he's coming off the bench, and he's really been making his time known. He's averaging 12.8 in the last 6 games. He has been like a little inconsistent, though, with his shooting. But in the last 6 games, he's really been balling out with his three-pointers, hitting 15 in 6 games. Shaggy has been inconsistent his entire year. How do you keep him on that track, you think?
I don't know, it's tough.
Shag's he's a bit of a special case. How would I keep Shag on that track? Honestly, you just gotta feed him right before the game. I really do think it's something, because I really do. I think I've narrowed it down to whatever he eats before the game. If it's something like Chinese related, he has a good game. But if it's like B&G, it's iffy. So you just gotta
bring back Happy Fortune.
Bring back Happy Fortune. Is if you don't take anything else, bring back Happy Fortune so we can get our Shag back. Make sure that he's consistent with these threes. But in all seriousness, to get Shag going, Saul has to do that for him. Saul has to be the spark plug for him so he can get it in his head to come out and, and really want it. Because Saul not being able to play, he sat there, and I guess over that period of time, he really wanted to get back on the court. Shag hasn't had that issue yet. So Saul, when he's on the court, he has to do a better job of getting Shaq involved so Shaq can do what he has to do as a player.
All right, I just want to go real quick, last second. We don't want to forget TC, Tracy Carter. He's been the leader of this team. His stats don't show it, so we just need to acknowledge that he is the leader of this team. And you can see it often on the court, right?
Yeah, he's very vocal on the court. You see that Ash actually really trusts him, just taking the point and just, making the decisions on the court, like what plays to run. So I really feel like, if it's not TC, like being the vocal person on the court, like we don't know who else it's going to be.
All right, I want to thank David P. Roberts and Dew for coming on. That's all we have for Sports Chat. Let's send it back to Dana and Tegan.
All right. Thank you, Steve, Dave, and Amadou, for kind of breaking down men's basketball so far for us. I want to talk about kind of the team leader, who they touched on, but not really, TC, Tracy Carter. He's been good. He's been doing well, not off the charts statistically,
right.
but he's definitely the leader on the team.
Right.
He's definitely, you can tell on and off the court, he's working hard. He's always, always, always giving it his all. And you could just tell in the way that he plays. So I like TC, and I like how he's been contributing to the team. Against St. Joe's, he had 18 points. Yep. And so it's times like that when it matters against those Big Five games.
Yeah,
I like how he's been playing.
I think the biggest thing with Tracy is that scrappy mentality of him and wanting him to. He goes out and he gives everything he has.
He's
every
on
game.
the floor. He's So yeah. So TC, good job.
All right.
All right. Well, it's fine. Thanks, Steven. Now on to more recaps. The women's basketball team had a strong showing against St. Louis, but ultimately fell short. The Billikens didn't waste any time and took an early 8-4 lead in the first quarter. The Explorers quickly bounced back and tied the score at 11 apiece to end the quarter. LaSalle took a short-lived lead in the second quarter, but the Billikens scored 7 unanswered points and led 27-22 going into the half. St. Louis pulled ahead in the final 2 quarters and defeated LaSalle by a score of 69-58. Jaron Reese was the only Explorer to hit double digits with 17 points. Sophie Wafung finished with 9, while Janae Sanders and Kayla Sproul finished with 8 apiece.
The men's track team competed at the David Henry Invitational in Boston, as well as the Fast Track Invitational in Staten Island this past weekend. As we said at the top of the show, senior Nathan Gillis broke a school record in the 800-meter and placed 10th in the event. Darian Alston headlined the field in Staten Island. The junior took home his second victory in the long jump with a leap of 6.8 meters, while also placing 4th in the triple jump. Freshman Chris Lewis was the runner-up in the 60-meter dash and finished 5th in the 200-meter. Sophomore Danis Mania took 5th place in the high jump, while Dylan Burnett placed 7th in the 60-meter hurdles. To finish, grad student Nick Smart ran in the 800-meter and crossed the finish line in 9th place.
The women's track team competed at the Fast Track National Invite in Staten Island, while junior Grace Mancini and freshman Liz Mancini traveled to Boston to compete at the David Henry Invitational. In Staten Island, junior Jessica Bryant led the Explorers with a 4th place finish in the long jump. She also placed 8th in the triple jump. Sophomore Lexi Scorantino finished the mile with a personal best time of 5 minutes, 10 seconds for 5th place. Junior Desiree Osley finished the 400-meter in 59.8 seconds for 16th place in the event. In Boston, Grace Mancini finished the 3,000-meter with a time of 9 minutes, 39 seconds to place 34th out of 178 runners. Liz Mancini finished the same race in 60th with a time less than 20 seconds behind her sister.
The women's water polo team took part in the Bucknell Invitational, winning 1 of the 4 matches. To start off the weekend, Sienna burned LaSalle on a 5-1 run early in the first period. The Saints maintained their dominance throughout the game, closing on a 9-2 run. In their next matchup against St. Francis, the Explorers took a 4-3 lead early on. Despite a strong defensive performance, LaSalle could not get enough going on offense, eventually falling 9-7. The next day, the Blue and Gold earned their first win of the season, 11-9. In a game where the Explorers never trailed, sophomore Sarah DeFusco led the way with 5 goals. Finally, the Explorers were dominated the entire game by Bucknell, falling by a score of 16-2.
Women's tennis traveled down Broad Street this week to face the Temple Owls. Unfortunately, arriving on time was the only thing they did right, as they got swept 7-0. In doubles competition, it took only 19 matches for the Owls to win 18 of them. Then in singles competition, not much better, as junior Allie Snyder was the only Explorer to win a set, forcing a third set tiebreaker in which she lost 10-5. Snyder was the only member of the blue and gold to win more than 3 matches in any set too. In the third matchup, the Explorers couldn't even win a match as they were swept 6-0. Okay, I gotta put it out there. We throw a lot of shade there, but I don't really want to blame us. I want to blame our producer Steve Silvestro. He wrote those scripts.
Yeah, we threw a lot of shade at both of those two teams, both women's water polo and tennis.
We're proud of women's water polo. We are disappointed and expect more from tennis.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. All right, that's all we got for recaps. But stay tuned, because when we come back, we are going to have Tyler Smalls on this weekend's Play for K game. Stay tuned.
Kylie loves to an egg.
An egg?
An egg.
How does a general lose to an egg?
The internet to an egg.
You know, there is a show for that. It's called Backstage Pass.
See the new library plan?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, they're doing stuff in the library.
Huh. In the library? The new library.
You know, there is a show for that called LTV News, where the action never stops.
I wonder how the basketball team is.
You know, there is a show for that called SportsLine.
So are you a Carson Wentz or Nick Foles guy?
More of a Nate Sudfeld team.
Oh, really? Interesting. Wonder where we can hear about Philly sports.
You know, there's a show for that called Sports Talk Philadelphia.
You like Family Feud?
Yeah.
You like all shows like that?
Yeah.
I wonder if LaSalle has a show like that. That'd be kind of cool.
There is a show for that called Q&A.
I really wish that we could just display our talents.
Yeah, me too.
There's a show for that called Explorers Got Talent.
All this and more on LaSalle TV.
There's plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us welcome Tyler Small for this week's Explorer Report.
This Sunday, February 17th, the women's basketball team will be hosting the St. Joseph's Hawks in the Play for K charity event. This Hawks team brings a 9-15 record coming into the matchup, along with a 5-6 record in the A-10. The Hawks have struggled away from home, however, only managing to win 2 games of their total 10 on the road. The Explorers will need to capitalize on this by focusing defensively on St. Joseph's star Alyssa Monahan. She's an all-around threat, as she leads her team in every stat by averaging 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists a game. If she is contained, then we should be in store for a great performance by the trio of Deja King, Rachelle Brown, and Jaren Reese. The 3 are all averaging over 8 points a game and always find each other on the floor with their great team chemistry. They will also need Jaren Reese and Shalina Miller to dominate in the paint, as it seems that the team that wins the rebounding battle will also win the contest. Both are averaging over 6 boards a game, which will be huge for maintaining the tempo of the game. The Explorers love to run up and down the floor, so control of rebounds and loose balls will give the Explorers backcourt plenty of transition opportunities. The game is at 2 this Sunday, so make sure to come out and support the team and the cause. Wear lots of pink and bring plenty of energy. From SportsLine, I'm Tyler Bigg.
Thank you so much, Tyler. So as we kind of touched on in the beginning of the show, this is an exciting game. First of all, it's a Big Five game, which is always an exciting thing for the Explorers. We're playing St. Joe's.
Yep.
And it's also the Play for K night. It's a cancer foundation where you can come out, donate a lot of money per free throw. It'll be a really exciting thing. I think it's a really nice thing that universities all across the country do. And I'm really glad that the Explorers and LaSalle are kind of teaming up to do that because we're all, at the end of the day, we're a university about giving back. And I like that we're doing it through our athletics and through basketball, which is a really exciting thing for people.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's the key part to this. It's not all about the sports. It's not all about, I mean, most of these people aren't going to continue to play sports for their lives. It's about making a connection to the community and doing things right for other people.
Making an impact.
Yeah, that's absolutely the key thing from this. We have picks that we're going to do.
All right.
So I'll start us off.
Let's do them.
I've got LaSalle losing 58-50.
I unfortunately also have LaSalle losing 65-59. Tyler is not on desk, and I'm not sure what he had.
Yeah.
Do you know what he had?
He has a pick.
But he has a pick.
Yeah.
I predict that the Explorers will win this contest with a final score of 56-49. Go Explorers.
He has LaSalle winning 56-49.
Yeah.
I like the positivity, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, it's typically Dana that has that positive
usually
vibe.
Paula.
You're usually Paula. Dana's the one that has the typical upbeat vibe. I'm normally the really aggressively pessimistic. That's the word I'm looking for.
Women's basketball has I'm not gonna lie, they've disappointed me this season.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose St. Joe's.
Yeah, they haven't been great.
I hope I'm wrong. Please prove me wrong.
Yeah. Well, that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com or check out this week's edition of the Collegian.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter at SportsLineLTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there.
For Steven, Tyler, and our SportsLine team, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Pecora. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.